Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this hot and humid July day for a quarter conversation about health and wellness tips for a lifetime. As you may know, Quarter Conversations is a program of the Villages of Route 1, which includes Hyattsville Aging in Place, Helping Hands University Park, um, Neighbors Helping Neighbors College Park, and Explorations in Aging in College Park. We do have another village that's in development in Mount Rainier, Gateway Aging Together. If you want more information about any of those, go ahead and look on the Hyattsville Aging Place website, and we've got links to connect you to each of the villages that serves the area you're in. Quarter Conversations began during COVID as a way to help get people connected and discussing, learning about the activities and life and history and culture of Route 1. And we are happy to be able to continue producing this series. Since 2021, we've had 43 of them that have been recorded and are available through our YouTube channel. I'll throw the link to that in the chat in case you want to go back and look at the history of some of these sort of programs that we've done. Today, we are really pleased to have with us Wallace Merriman, who is here to talk about health wellness tips for a lifetime. He's a health and fitness coach who specializes in weight loss for women and has over 25 years of experience as a personal trainer, U.S. Army Master Fitness Trainer, instructor, and trainer for special agents in federal law enforcement. He also has a background in nutrition. He works as a group fitness trainer for Prince George's County Parks and Planning Division, and as well as an adjunct professor at Prince George's Community College, and has been an instructor with the Arthritis Foundation too. He's passionate about taking the confusion out of diet, exercise, and nutrition, and helping people make better choices that'll last a lifetime instead of in a moment. So I'm going to just hand it over to you, Wallace, and the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have a session with you, and very excited about what we're going to go over today. I can give you a little bit more snapshot. I live here in Bowie, Maryland, married 31 years. I have a son that lives in Huntsville, Alabama right now. My daughter is finishing her PhD in physical therapy. So we are so close to be empty nesters, so close. And so life's going to be good. Today, though, one of the biggest things that I believe that the reason why I'm here, my passion, when you have the ability to focus on your passion and help other people use that tool, it's just amazing. So I find it a blessing to have the opportunity to talk with you about health, wellness, and nutrition. And I'm sure that you'll get some insight out of the session today. I would definitely recommend to have a notepad or something like that so you can take down some nuggets, because I'm going to hit you with some nuggets today. Before we get going, though, I have a background in nutrition, fitness, health and wellness, and I can cover a lot of different subjects, and I'm going to go over quite a bit. I'm going to go around in a world circle today. So I'm going to cover a lot of topics. However, I do want to make sure that I'm customizing this session for the audience. So in the area of health and nutrition and exercise, is there any questions that you would like to have talked about, discussed, or even just elaborate a little bit? Is there anybody that would like to go off of on speaker just to state maybe a question that they have in the back of their mind that might be they don't really know the answer to, that they've been curious about? Maybe I can ensure that I insert that inside our session today. Yes, Leslie.
You need to unmute yourself, Leslie.
Sorry, been too long. My question is how to find a personal trainer for a person who's older and on the wimpy side and wants to get stronger. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. Anybody else? You mean to tell me there's nothing that you might, as much misinformation that is out here that people are so confused about. Are you telling me that no, I know everything? Is that what I'm hearing today?
I don't know how to raise my hand here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can,
Yep.
Mary.
Um, I have arthritis in the knee, so I need to know what kind of exercise that I should be doing in spite of the fact that I have arthritis.
Perfect. Okay. We can
Thank you.
definitely talk about that. I'm actually an arthritis instructor for the Arthritis Foundation, so I can definitely make sure that I cover that.
Hey,
Thank you.
Wallace, this is Gail.
Hey, Gail.
Uh, Going off of what the last lady just said, talking about exercise for your arthritis, you helped me with arthritis in my knees from a nutrition perspective. So, can you talk about things you should and should not eat related to arthritis? That's very helpful.
Excellent. I will definitely dive into that. Ooh, we on a roll now. Ooh, y'all better come on. Y'all come on, come on, come on. See, the things are getting warm. We're getting warm now. Any other questions? And by the way, I like to have fun, so this is not going to be a dry session. I had an opportunity to do a session in College Park a couple of weeks ago, and it was such an awesome time. But I can't stand still, so it's tough. I'm on Zoom, and you'll see me bounce around a little bit because I try to be calm, but I'm not calm, right?
Wallace,
So,
there is a question in the chat too,
okay,
asking about how can someone lose weight during menopause when they're doing everything they know to achieve that outcome? Calorie deficit, 8,000 average steps a day, no alcohol, but not losing a single pound with those life changes.
good. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you for that. That's good. That's good. All right. Anybody else?
I
Yeah,
have
can you
ten-
talk about, oh, let go on, Marianne.
okay. I have tendonitis in my left shoulder right now. It's about a month into it, and my doctor said it would probably last for about 6 weeks. What sorts of things should I or could I be doing now to prevent getting a frozen shoulder out of this if I just leave it still?
Right. Perfect. All right. How about one more? One
Okay,
more.
Wallace, this is Gail. I got one more for you. How about pre-diabetes? Like,
Nice.
what kinds of things should you be doing not to get to the next stage?
Ooh, so y'all gonna keep me busy today. I like this. I like this. This is good. All right.
Wallace, I know you said one last question, but there's also one popped up in the chat at that time. How can you address ways to help sciatica?
Sciatica. All right. Good. This is good. All right. Thank you. This makes this now your session. This is no longer mine. Perfect. This is perfect. All right. So let's go through. Let's go through the presentation, and I'm going to weave in quite a few of these things that we talked about here. If you do have any other questions, you can drop them in the chat, or please just hold off until the end, because I'm pretty confident that a lot of things that you might be having a question of will be covered inside the session. So I'm excited about this. So let's go. Let's go. The way that I wanted to put together this topic, it's health and wellness tips for a lifetime. And the reason why I made it that is because I want people to kind of understand that this is not about a diet. A lot of people operate under this presence that I need to be on a diet in order for me to be healthy. And I like to use the analogy that if you can use the word diet, and I'd like you to change those four letters around. Instead of you saying diet, I'd rather you say edit. Same four letters, but what you did is you changed them around and you said edit. And the reason why you say edit, because now I want you to think about how you can edit what you're eating, how you can maybe make some modifications to the exercise. Maybe some of the things that you're currently doing might just need to be changed around as opposed to doing a diet. Because when we do a diet, we are given three different macros, which are fats, carbs, and proteins. And anytime that we do a diet, we're eliminating one of those three. When you eliminate one of the three, your body is not happy, right? The way that your body operates, it wants carbs, it wants proteins, it wants fats, and when you try to eliminate one, when your body gets confused, and now it starts to try to defend itself. So I'd rather you do is just edit the things you're doing, and I'm going to go over a couple of concepts that will help you do that. The weight management equation that I like to go over in the beginning is, as I said, I'm a in-person personal trainer, but I'm also an online personal trainer. 85% of my clients are 100% online, which means I have clients not just here in Maryland, but also in Canada, in Florida, in New Jersey, in Trinidad, in the UK. So there are people that are around the world that are completely online with me. So, and of course, people right here in Maryland, but the beauty is that the concepts I'm going to go over with you can be done in person or if you're away. So I'm going to treat you and talk about it as if I'm talking to you as a client. The first thing I would say is that a lot of people will come to me as a trainer and says, Wallace, I need an exercise program because I want to lose weight. And the truth is, I'd rather you think about it this way. You have 24 hours in a day. Of the 24 hours, hopefully you're getting around 6 to 8 hours of sleep. That leaves you 16 hours. Hopefully you're doing some kind of movement for at least an hour. That leaves you 15 hours. Well, guess what we're doing for the 15 hours? We're eating. So we're spending 15 hours of eating. We spend maybe an hour, if you're lucky, doing movement. Hopefully you're getting 6 to 8 hours. But someone asks me, Wallace, I want to lose weight, and can you show me an exercise program in order for me to do that? And my answer is that 70% of your equation for you to get healthier and for you to be where you want to be is focusing on nutrition. So 70% of your time you should be focused on nutrition. 20% of your time you should be focusing on exercise. You got your 10%, which is your genetics, because we have to put in consideration that your genetic code does dictate several different things that allows you to do certain things and not. So yes, genetics ties in, but here's the truth, is that 100% of your equation has to do with your attitude. So 70% is your nutrition, 20% exercise, 10% genetics, but 100% has to do with the attitude that you have and the goals that you're looking to go after in order to meet the criteria that you put on yourself. So I hope that makes sense. Here is what I would call is, for the last 2 decades, anybody that knows me and we've had a discussion, they know that I have what's called the 4 basics. And for me, the 4 basics is, number 1 is nutrition. Number 2 is exercise. Number 3 is hydration and supplementation. And the last one is getting rest and eliminating stress. So let's think about this. Your nutrition is 70%. So then what I want you to think about, maybe changing the dynamics of what you're eating, and think about eating every 3 to 4 hours, whether you're hungry or not, but you're combining a carbohydrate and a protein with every meal. Number 2 is you want to exercise, but there's 2 forms of exercise. One is strength training, one is cardio. I'd rather you focus more on strength training than cardio. We'll dig into it. The next one is hydration and supplementation. You have to drink. You have to drink water. And many times the food that we're consuming doesn't give us a sufficient amount of nutrients we need. And the last one is getting some rest and eliminating stress. That, my friends, is really the basics that people have to focus on. All the other stuff, that's all fine and dandy, but that is not the main focus that everybody should focus on, and we'll talk about this. Dig into these 4 basics. Is number 1, eating every 3 to 4 hours. You want to pair a carbohydrate with a protein with each and every meal. Moving and growing. aiming for 2 to 3 workouts every week, but you're mixing your aerobic activities with strength training, but you're focusing on strength training. Hydration, drinking at least 8 glasses of water daily, and consider having whole food supplements for your essential nutrients. And the last one, we must get sleep. That is a requirement that many of us kind of neglect. And we have to operate under the pretense that we need to focus on eliminating stress. So don't worry, we're going to dig in. We're going to dig in. Take it easy, y'all. Take it easy. All right, let's talk about the macros. And I like to keep everything in a kindergarten level. So since we're talking the kindergarten level, I'm going to talk as if we are in kindergarten, because I don't like when people try to talk over my head and try to give me all these complex information. Like your doctor sometimes might tell you all this information. You're like, I don't know what you're saying, doc. I'd rather you have information that could make sense. You go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So let's dig into proteins, carbs, and fats. Easy way for me to explain this would be a protein is anything that walks, swims, or flies. There's your proteins. Anything that walks, swims, or flies. Your carbohydrates would be anything that comes out of the ground. And then your fats come from 2 different locations, either from an animal-based fat or a plant-based fat. See, wasn't that simple? Nice and simple. I'll dig down a little further. The reason why proteins are very important because they are the building blocks that your body, muscles, skin, hair, and enzymes need in order to function. So the more protein that you have, the more building blocks you provide for your body. Those sources could be from a plant base. It can also be from a animal base. Chicken, fish, eggs, bean, tofu, nuts. Let's talk about carbohydrates. Carbohydrates to your body is considered as a fuel source. So when you're eating carbohydrates, it provides you fuel. And that fuel is an energy source that helps your brains, your muscles. It includes fiber for digestion. And these sources are coming from fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. And then you have the last area, which is where your fats come from. And fats come from 2 different places. You have the animal-based fats that comes from animals, and then you have your plant-based fats that comes from plants. So your animal-based fats could be from fish, your obviously other meats that are high in fat. Then you have your oil-based fats, which is avocados, nuts, olive oil, nut butters, and so on. I'm going to stay here for 1 second because remember what we talked about before, that you want to eat every 3 to 4 hours, whether you're hungry or not. And the way that your body operates, that when you're eating carbohydrates goes through your body within 20 to 40 minutes. So as you consume your carbohydrates and you're eating them and they go inside your bloodstream, the body gets rid of carbohydrates and goes into your bloodstream for energy within 20 to 40 minutes. Your proteins, when you're consuming proteins, they go into your body and they will go through between 2 to 4 hours. It takes proteins to go through your body and metabolize. And then you have your fats. And your fats are the longest components. Fats break down in your body, and that could take 6 to 8 hours. The reason why I said that you want to focus on having all 3 and you want to focus on eating every 3 to 4 hours, because if you're consuming a carbohydrate and a protein with each and every meal, many times the protein that you're consuming has already fat attached to it. Right? So if you're eating a protein like fish, chicken, eggs, a lot of those animal-based fats already have fat to it. So the beauty is that you're getting your fat as you consume your proteins. So of those three, guess what? The only one of those three that make you fat is the carbohydrates, not the fat. Fat gets a bad name. A lot of people say fat makes you fat. No, fat does not make you fat. The carbohydrates actually make you fat. And if we talk about the carbohydrates, carbohydrates come through two different sources. One is a simple carbohydrate, and the second one is a complex carbohydrate. Just to dig in this, I'm going to keep everything simple. A complex carbohydrate means that there is still fiber to the carbohydrate. Remember, we said everything comes from the ground? That's your carbohydrates. But if you're eating everything from the ground the way that God made it, that means the fiber is still attached to the food. So when you're eating a wholesome vegetable or wholesome fruit, you're getting carbohydrates, but it still has fiber, so it slows down the ability for it to go to your bloodstream. And that's called a complex carbohydrate because there is fiber that is still attached to that carb. Now, let's talk about a simple carbohydrate. The simple carbohydrate is where we get in trouble. Because the simple carbohydrate is where man made your carbohydrate or man messed with your food. Right? So here is your vegetable, but if your vegetable was turned into a processed food, that means that everything that was good inside what God made has now been stripped in order for it to be shelf stable. And when it's shelf stable, you're putting in chemicals and processes and other things that makes you stimulate your blood sugar levels a lot higher. So you have two types of carbohydrates. You have the complex carbohydrates, which came directly out of the ground. Nobody messed with it. And then you have your simple carbohydrates, which means somebody messed with it in order for them to make a profit, in order for them to keep it on the shelf for a long period of time. And then when they're doing that, that throws you off. If there's no fiber in the food you're eating, that means that it goes directly to the bloodstream and it shoots your insulin level up very high. Let's use the example. Let's assume that you went to a Chinese food restaurant. I don't need anybody to give me the answer. I'm going to give you exactly what happens. You go to a Chinese food restaurant. My question to you is I want you to think, how long does it take you to get hungry after you have a Chinese food? I bet the answer would be, if you think about it for a minute, it's going to be about 20 to 40 minutes. You have a Chinese food, 20, 40 minutes later, you're probably hungry. Now, if we think about this, the reason being is because your meal was basically 80 to 85% carbohydrates. Because the bulk of your food came from rice, and many times it's white rice, and white rice is just like you having sugar, right? White rice has been stripped of everything that's wholesome, and the only thing that the body has to do is say, this is straight starch, I don't have any fiber, so as soon as it gets into the bloodstream, the body goes, this is a lot of sugar, and then it calls for insulin. If you're eating brown rice has still everything there. It has the fiber, it has the endosperm, it has the hull. So the body has to work through that first in order for it to even get to the bloodstream. So it takes a longer amount of time in order for your insulin to get triggered. Let's talk about another meal that's going to be there. You have rice. The second one, you have vegetables. The vegetables is the same thing, that it is a carbohydrate. And then you have a small amount of protein. There's a little portion of protein, which might be a chicken, might be a fish, might be tofu. But if you look at your plate, 15% of that plate is protein. The rest of it is all carbohydrates. And if we talked about what carbohydrates do, if 20 to 40 minutes a carbohydrate goes through the body into the bloodstream, this is why you're hungry so quickly after you have that Chinese food meal. I don't want to get into I want you to also think, is Chinese food necessarily healthy? That's for another day, y'all. You got to think about this for a minute, because we want to look, I joke around, but I said sometimes you have the rice, you have the vegetables, and then you have the chicken or whatever you use, and you hope it was chicken. You just hope. You're hoping that the meat that you had is actually what it's supposed to be. That's for another time. Right? So if you're having a protein and you're having a carbohydrate, that means that two things are happening. The carbohydrate's giving you energy, the protein is giving you the building block, there's fat going to be attached. What's going to happen, it controls your blood sugar because the protein and the fat slows down the process of your food. Here's what happens when you digest food. And here's the thing I want you to think about. I think what happens is that we rush very quickly to eat our food. The way that we should really be eating our food is that when you eat your food and it goes inside your mouth, you should be chewing the food at least 20 to 40 times before it even goes down into your esophagus, into your throat. Because the enzymes that's in your mouth actually breaks down, the enzymes in the mouth actually breaks the food down before it even gets into the bloodstream. Those enzymes that are in your mouth actually start to break the food down. It goes down to your esophagus, it goes into your stomach. There's hydrochloric acid in your stomach that helps on trying to liquefy it. Once it's sitting in your stomach, it now comes out of the stomach in very small amounts in the form of glucose and glycogen. Glycogen would be considered as a sugar. When that sugar is leaving the bloodstream in small increments, the bloodstream says, wow, this is a lot of sugar. When the sugar is too much inside the bloodstream, the body goes, okay, we got to move this out of here. And that's when it calls the pancreas and says, I need insulin. The insulin comes, and what it does, consider insulin as a master key. And what it does, it takes all the muscle cells, and you have trillions of muscle cells inside your body. And as soon as the insulin hits, it's a master key for all the muscle cells. And it takes the glycogen and water and goes inside each one of the cells, fills them up. And then once they're filled, whatever is left and there's nowhere to put it, that roams around trying to find a home. When it tries to find a home and there's no more cells, guess what? That converts into fat. So the body uses what it needs, and then it says, if you're giving me too much, then I have to insert this somewhere else and store it for later, and that means now you have fat. So the body doesn't necessarily want a lot of food at one time. It would rather have increments of food so it can control your blood sugar. If you're eating only once or twice a day, many times you're triggering the blood sugar, and then the blood sugar drops all the way back down, but so does your metabolism. So if you're eating more meals, smaller meals throughout the day, you control your blood sugar because you're not getting such rises and you're not getting so many drops. You're actually having the ability to keep it within a certain minimum time, and that will control your metabolism. Because many times if we get a big shot of insulin and then the rest of the day you're dropping it all the way down, that's not how your blood sugar wants to operate. So I hope that made sense. So the focus is for nutrition is eating every 3 to 4 hours, whether you're hungry or not. If there's any questions on that, please, we can elaborate that a little bit later. So here's my fuel in the body. Try to eat every 3 to 4 hours, whether you're hungry or not. Make sure you're pairing a carbohydrate with a protein with every meal, and you want to make the protein the priority. This approach is going to help you stay strong, energized throughout the day. Your focus is ensuring that you're getting protein. Carbohydrates are great, but the protein is going to be the building block, and it'll allow you to stay satiated. Let's talk about exercise. There's 2 forms of exercise, everybody. One is aerobic exercise and one is anaerobic exercise. Your aerobic exercise is going to be how you strengthen the heart. That would be walking, cardio, elliptical, treadmills. That is aerobic exercise. You're strengthening the heart. Anaerobic exercise is that you're strengthening the entire body. So there's 2 different types. Yes, you want to mix the two together because remember, cardio strengthens the heart. And I definitely recommend that you do cardio. But I would prefer someone, if someone asked me, I would ask that consider taking your activities for the week and say that 1/3 of my time I'm doing cardio and 2/3 of the time I'm doing some form of strength training. And that could be using weights, it could be using resistant bands, it could be using your body weight like Pilates, it could be using aqua aerobics, anything that goes against the body in the form of resistance can be a form of what's called strength training. And the beauty is that the more muscle that you have, you turn your body into a furnace. Because the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. The more muscle that your body has, the more fat you burn because the muscle uses fat for energy. That is such a beautiful thing because if you're exercising, even the days that you are relaxed and you're recovering, because I wouldn't want you to exercise every single day. I'd rather you take a day and then rest day and then rest day. You allow the body to recover. The beauty is that the days that you're recovering, your body is also burning body fat from the muscle that you have already. That is such a great strategy. And that's something you cannot do when you're doing cardio all the time. So, to sum this up, yes, I want you to do cardio, but I want you to focus, especially as you get older, because every year you get older, you lose 2% of your strength. Every year you get older, you're losing 2% if you just stay consistent. So you're getting weaker in age. But the truth is, you shouldn't allow the age to dictate where you are. One of my clients actually, this is unique because I have a small amount of people that train with me in person, but I call her this young lady, she will actually be 87 this year. Her birthday's coming up in August. She's 87. She trains with me once a week at my house. And she does kettlebell swings and strength training and resistant bands and squats. So you can reverse the age at any time. Your age should not dictate how you feel and who you are. Age is just a number. So let's talk about hydration. Hydration, 85% of your brain is water. So if 85% of your brain is water and you're not drinking a sufficient amount of water, guess what's happening? Is that your brain is overheating. And when your brain is overheating, it creates lethargic. You can be tired, you can be not focused, you can be lethargic, you can have inflammation, you can have toxicity. The brain is an integral piece, but if you find yourself being very tired all the time, one of the good mechanisms that you have to put in consideration, how much water are you drinking? How much hydration are you putting in? So to you, I would say that you want to aim for drinking at least 8 glasses of water each day to maintain proper bodily function and energy levels. The benefits of hydration is number 1, improves your energy levels and brain function. It aids in digestion and absorption. It helps regulate your body temperature. Let's flip this around and say supplementation. I'm sorry, y'all, but the food that we're consuming is not giving us a sufficient amount of nutrients, even if you're eating organic food. And the reason why I'm going to say that is that the food you consume is no better than the soil that it came from. So if your soil is depleted, or the soil is loaded with pesticides, or the soil doesn't have nutrients that's being fertilized into the soil to give it nutrients in order for these plants to grow, guess what, y'all? You're not really getting, even though it looks like a beautiful looking strawberry or cherry or tomato or pepper or carrot, but if the soil is depleted, that means that the only way that these vegetables actually get the nutrients is from the soil and it's depleted. That means you are really getting what we would consider as fake food, or let's even go further, that there's so many GMOs food now, that a GMO food is genetically modified. That means even if the soil is depleted, it will still grow. It will still look great. There's no nutrients, but the food looks fantastic to the eye. But the nutrients you're getting because of the soil being depleted is not what you think. That's pretty harsh, but this is the facts. There's two things that the government does not regulate. One is your water. The government doesn't regulate our water. Our consumption of water, 85% of the bottled water you're drinking today is coming from tap water. 85%. I don't care where you're getting it from. 85% of the water you're drinking right now is coming from tap water. And it's not regulated. In fact, your tap water is more regulated than the bottled water you're drinking. Number two, supplements. The government doesn't regulate your supplements. So that means buyer beware. So if the government doesn't regulate your supplements, that means that who is actually saying what is on the label is actually there? No one. So you might think that you're getting, and I can tell you for a fact, I know for a fact, I've seen it so many times, and I have literature and resources and things that I spend money on in order to find out supplements and which ones that are toxic or not. But many of the supplements that we're consuming on a daily basis, we're spending a lot of money, but the truth is they're really placebos. Because what it says on the container is not really what is in it. And we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, easily hundreds of dollars every single year on supplements that truthfully you're not even getting a benefit from because it's not dissolving inside the system. You might take the supplement, but by the time the supplement dissolves, it might go into your large intestines. But the supplement has to discharge and go into the bloodstream in your small intestines. Your small intestines allows food to go into the bloodstream. Your large intestines' job is to excrete waste out. If your vitamins you take does not dissolve until it gets to your large intestines, guess what, y'all? Y'all have expensive feces. Your feces is expensive, but you're not getting the benefit. But your brain said, yes, I'm getting the benefit, but your body says, no, I'm getting nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. So you have to do your own homework and find out where your supplements are coming from. And the best thing that I would ask you to do then is that ensure that the supplements you're getting is following what's called GMP standards. If you want to write something down, it's called GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices. Good manufacturing practices means that the vitamins that are being, the company itself is being their own internal control. And they're saying that what we said is true, and I'm standing behind that by giving the stamp of approval of saying that I'm following good manufacturing practices. At least that means that the company is doing due diligence to say that I stand behind my product and here's why. I am verifying that these products are in here. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen supplements that might be, let's say, echinacea, but then when the laboratory actually researches and look at it, they says, yeah, there's echinacea in here, but it's echinacea bark, not the echinacea leaf or the herb. So they didn't lie, but they didn't put what you thought you were getting. So I want you to think about it. Hydration. Let's go back to 1 minute about the hydration. That I don't know if you can see it, but here's a water bottle. The 16-ounce water bottle that we're drinking on a daily basis. Your body gets rid of 4 of these 16-ounce bottled waters just by living. You're getting rid of 16 ounces of 4 16-ounce bottled water just by living. And the way that that's happening is that through urination, through preparation, through defecation, and just breathing and living. You're getting rid of 4 bottled waters. So if you're not drinking at least 4 bottled waters, you're dehydrated. And then you think your stomach is growling and it says, I must be hungry. Let me get something to eat. No, your stomach is growling saying, I'm hurting. It's sending a signal to the brain like, listen, I need some help. But we became so accustomed that the stomach growls because I'm hungry. But no, you just came from Chick-fil-A. So you're not hungry, but the body says, hey, there's something wrong. And one way that I'm going to tell you that something's wrong is by making the stomach growl. So just because certain sensations, if you're getting headaches, that's probably because something's wrong with the body. If you're getting constipation, if you're getting arthritis, if you're getting, constant areas, for example, tendonitis, many of these things are coming from the simple thing of not getting enough hydration, not getting enough rest, not taking enough supplements, not getting in enough nutrients. It's the body defending itself. So many times where there's something wrong with the body's saying, I'm hurting, I need help. But what we end up doing is that we override our senses because we became accustomed saying, I'm getting older, so this is why these things are happening. No, the body's trying to tell you, help me, I need some help. So when things are going wrong with the body, we try to override it by giving it medication and things like that. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying you shouldn't take your medication, but I am saying that I want you to focus on the basics first and see, are we doing that first before we start saying that other things are wrong? I hope that made sense. Let's talk about rest. You want to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, and you have to eliminate stress. The only way that the body recovers is when it's at rest. If you're exercising and doing all these activities during the day, but you don't give the body the ability to rest, that is the only time that the body actually goes through processes to allow you to recover. Sleeping benefits several different things. It helps with memory and cognitive functions. It supports your immune system. It helps regulate your mood and your anxiety. It helps promote physical recovery and healing. And you have to create a relaxing bedtime routine to improve your sleep quality and consistency. What does that mean, Wallace? That would mean that you want to go to bed every night at the same time. Wallace, you don't understand. I watch Netflix and I got to watch every show tonight. No, you don't. There is actually a reason why there's episodes where you can watch them in time. You don't have to go through the whole thing. The reason why the body wants to go to bed at the same time, because the body likes systems. Just like you like not being confused, well, your body doesn't like being confused either. The body likes to know, what are we doing today? The body wants to know, when are we going to bed? The body wants to know, when are we getting up? The body wants to know, are we eating healthy today? The body wants to know, am I getting a sufficient amount of water? Can I go back to one thing I just missed, and I just thought about this? That if you don't drink enough water, the body needs the water. Remember I said 85% of your body is water? If you don't drink a sufficient amount of water, the body holds on to the water you have, and the only thing it does, it recirculates the old water. So if it's recirculating the old water because you're not giving it new water, the same arthritis, the same toxins, you're making the body overtax your organs because it's trying to excrete it, but it has to hold on to it because it has to do so many other functions with the water. Think about how many things that's happening in your body on autopilot. You're breathing, you're seeing, you're hearing, you're controlling your blood sugar, you're controlling your temperature. And look at this. Your body wants to be at 98.7. Not 98, not 99. It wants to be at 98.7, and it self-regulates. The heart is beating. Until the day that you die, from the day that you live to the day that you die, your heart is beating on autopilot. So all of these things are happening in the background that requires energy. And if we're not giving our body a sufficient amount of water, that means it's recycling toxins. If you have a fish tank, don't you have to take the water out? If you have a car, doesn't the car need an oil change? See, every other system needs these things, and you have to get them serviced. Listen, many of you, I hate to say it, that if your body was an automobile, your service light is on, and you haven't had a tune-up in years. But when the service light comes on in your car, there's a big red blaring light, and it's beeping, and it's annoying, and you're like, okay, I got to get the car service. And we spend hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars to get that car service. But when was the last time you got a tune-up for your body? When was the last time that you spent money to fix the things that are wrong with the body? And that might just be upgrading the food that you're consuming. That might be maybe changing out the pillow or the bed that you have, the mattress. It might be upgrading your vitamins or getting vitamins that actually work. We have to take a little bit of time and say, what are the things that are important to us and where are we spending our money? Is it benefiting or is it detrimental to us? We're going to talk about nutrition. When we're eating the right foods, it controls your metabolism. If we eat mindful, there's a difference between eating mindful and eating mindless. When we're eating mindful, that means that the food that you're eating, you understand why you're eating and you understand the benefits of them. When you're mindless about your eating, you just eat, you open up the refrigerator, you say, I'm hungry, let me just grab something. But being mindful is so important because when we think about what we're eating, is this a friend or a foe? So mindful eating would mean that your metabolism is under your control if you're eating the foods that you need. Your metabolism can easily increase or decrease based on the foods. Mindful eating will also help your hormone levels, especially for women, because your hormones are all over the place. And as you get older, your body is literally changing. Your hormonal makeup continues to change. And that affects many other things, especially regarding menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause. Your hormones that you had when you were in your 30s and 40s are completely rewired and changed. And you have to look at things a little bit more different than the way that you were in your 20s and 30s. When 40s kicks in, your hormones and everything change and menopause starts to change. We'll dig in a little bit more about that. When you're eating mindful, we want to make sure that whenever we're getting enough nutrients, here's what I want you to think about. Making sure your metabolism is staying under control, your hormonal levels you want to be under control, making sure that your muscle mass, you want to eat foods that are more high dense foods, and you want to make sure you're intentional about the consumption and the foods that you're eating. How does foods impact your body? And I think this is important, everyone, because we talked about some of the questions that were brought up today. The food you eat dictates how your body feels. The food you eat controls your metabolism. The food you eat impacts your inflammation. The food you eat will tell you whether you're going to gain or lose weight. The food you eat controls your blood sugar and blood pressure. Let's talk about very quickly about shopping in the supermarket. This is a question I get all the time. When you go to the supermarket, I want you to think about perimeter shopping. And perimeter shopping would mean that you go into the supermarket, you go into the produce aisle, you go into the protein aisle, you go to the dairy aisle, you go into the frozen aisle, and then you leave. You have no business hanging around in the middle of the supermarket. When you hang around too much in the middle of the supermarket, what happens is that you're eating processed foods, sugary cereals, and other processed meat, produce, ready-made meals, and additives. The outside of your supermarket is the perimeter, which means there's live food is there. Live food is on the outside of the supermarket. The middle is where your dead food is. Outside perimeter, live food. Inside the supermarket in the middle is dead food, your processed, shelf-stable food. My recommendation to you is stay on the outside, shop as much as you can. The problem with processed foods is they have hidden dangers that we're used to. Remember, processed foods are designed for you to say, man, this is so good, I want more. Processed foods are designed and chemically made so your brain goes, this was delicious. I want some more. That's the science laboratories, that's their focus. And when you get tired of that processed food, they change the ingredients. And then you see it says new and improved. No, they just changed the chemical structure of that food because your brain got used to that chemical process. They change it, get your brain revamped and say, oh, I want this again, until you get tired and then you see new and improved again. The hidden dangers of processed foods is excess sugar, unhealthy fats and salt, artificial ingredients and preservatives. This is where your inflammation stays. So if you're concerned about inflammation, I want you to consider how much processed food you're consuming. We're talking about weight gain and we're talking about hormonal balances. That's where the processed food are coming from. Remember, a carbohydrate, any carbohydrate you consume is a form of sugar. Whether it be a good carbohydrate or a bad carbohydrate, it's still sugar. Good carbohydrates or bad carbohydrates still are sugar. The issue, though, is how fast does it go into your bloodstream? Processed foods strip everything good, so it goes into your bloodstream very quickly. Not processed foods have the fiber, so it slows down the process for the blood to go, all right, I need to get into business here. Hope this is making sense, everyone. Here's an area that I want to talk about that most of us overlook, and I wanted to make sure that we got into this a little bit. And this is called microplastics. No one talks about this, but this is a hidden danger that all of us are dealing with. And microplastics is what's called a hidden threat. They are tiny plastic particles that are smaller than 9 millimeters, and they break down from larger plastics or added products like cosmetics. The health concerns of microplastics is they cause inflammation, oxidative stress, hormone disruption, especially from dealing with hormonal changes. Remember we were talking about the hormones? We're not putting into consideration the amount of plastic that we're consuming. How do we reduce the exposure? You want to reduce the exposure by number one, trying to filter your water, limiting certain seafoods, avoiding single-use plastics, choosing glass over metal containers. Now, y'all are not going to like what I'm going to talk about here, but I think we need to understand how important this is. The consumption of microplastics also has to do with a term that's called obesogens, and most people have never heard this word before. Microplastics, whether you want to like it or not, on a weekly basis, you're consuming around a credit card worth of plastic every week. Every week. I didn't say month. Every week, you're consuming around a credit card worth of plastic. Every week, you're consuming. Now, you see a credit card in your wallet or your purse? Consider you consuming that credit card in plastic every week. I didn't say a month, I said a week. Here's the problem with this. And here's the problem, what we would call obesogens. Obesogens are what's called forever chemicals. That means once they enter your body, they do not break down. They don't leave the body easily. Forever plastics can stay in your body for around 5 years plus. The reason why I wanted to put this in here is to give you an example. This is a body scan. And this is a body scan that shows, you see the dark spots that show here? Well, these dark spots are actually chemicals that accumulated around fat tissues and organs. So everywhere that's dark, this one is this is a lady who is 250 pounds. And here is a lady that was 150 pounds. And all the black mass that you see, including here in the brain, are all obesogens, and they're forever chemicals that stay in the body and they don't leave. You see the lungs? See how much black there is? You see all the organs? Well, here's your organs, but around the organs, all of the fat deposits, these are all forever chemicals. These are all plastics that are staying inside the system, y'all. They're not going anywhere. That's pretty damaging if you really want to think about this. The stubborn deposits build up over time and they may interfere with your metabolic functions. They contribute to weight gain. They contribute to obesity-related health issues. And what this is a medical imaging and just shows you exactly where the environmental toxins concentrate inside the body. There are ways to try to detoxify this, but many of these things never leave. So can you get rid of microplastics? No, you can't. Instead of I understand what I said, that you're getting around a credit card worth of microplastics. And the issue is you can't really get rid of microplastics because they're everywhere. They're in everything that you're doing. My goal is not get rid of microplastics, but at least, would it be okay if you just consume a half of a credit card of plastics as opposed to a full credit card? That's the goal, not to get rid of the plastics. Even me, and I eat super healthy. I don't eat any beef or pork, and I haven't eaten beef or pork for probably over 20 plus years. I'm very conscious about the food I'm consuming, but by default, you still are getting microplastics into your body. So my goal for you is to start thinking about where these microplastics could be coming from. I'll talk about that. But the second thing is, as opposed to getting a full credit card of plastic every week, how about focus on getting a half a credit card? Why is it dangerous? First, number one, and we were talking about weight loss. Why, as we get older, it's difficult to lose weight, even though we're doing everything correctly. I want you to think about how your body's natural balance is being affected. If you're having too many microplastics inside the body, it's tougher for you to lose weight, even if you're eating right, even if you're staying active. It raises the risk of your metabolic disease like type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and heart problems. It disrupts your reproductive health and interferes with your sex hormones. Ladies, you already have these issues, not outside of the microplastics, but we're putting another layer of problems on top of it. The possibility also increases thyroid issues and some cancers. And your children or your grown adults, as they're getting older and having babies themselves, they already are giving their babies microplastics inside the placenta. Babies are being born with already microplastics. Polar bears in the top part of the North Pole and South Pole are found inside their bloodstream microplastics. You have African tribes in the middle of the desert, and they have microplastics inside their bloodstream. You cannot get rid of microplastics, but your job is to try to eliminate as much as you can. How does it hurt your body? Obesogens or microplastics, I'm going to say obesogens because that's the term that we're going to use, forever chemicals. It increases fat storage. It slows down your metabolism. It disrupts your appetite. It causes insulin resistance. These are 4 areas that all of us are dealing with, and we can't figure out what is going on. How come I can't XYZ? fill in the blank. How come I can't do these things? And the truth is, many times it's the overconsumption of plastics that we're consuming on a daily basis. Why isn't anybody talking about obesogens? Number one, that is an invisible threat. It's microscopic. And it's slow. It's a slow process. It happens over time, day after day after day after day. The second part is a complex science. There's not really a simple solution. No one has a simple solution to this. And it's called what's called an endocrine disruptor. An endocrine disruptor is basically something that throws the body off of its metabolism. Your metabolic state is being affected because of all of the plastics, all of the residue and things that are happening. The last one is that manufacturers of pesticides and consumer goods have financial incentives not to talk about it. They make too much money off of selling you all this stuff. They're not going to bring it up. And they've talked to most government agencies and paid them off to say, we're not talking about this. And I'm going to pay you to keep it up, to keep this under. And that's what's hurting. How do we protect ourselves? One is to choose better storage. We have to replace these plastic containers that we're consuming on a daily basis. And do not put the plastic inside your microwave. When you put plastic inside a microwave, you're melting the plastic, and guess what? The plastic now goes into your body. You want to replace your plastic containers with glass or stainless steel, especially for storing your acidic foods like tomato sauce, which can accelerate your the chemical leaching. Number two is you want to heat smarter. Never put microwave food in plastic containers or plastic wrap. That heat accelerates the migration of chemicals into the food. You want to focus on using ceramic or glass instead. Can I go back to this now? Remember this heat? There are plastics. Many of the things that we purchase now are either white plastics or black plastic. Your black plastic comes from electronics that have been discarded and melted down. So your black plastics that we're getting from utensils and your carry-out containers and all these other things that are black, they're from electronics that were melted. And if the electronics were melted, all of the chemicals and the niacin and all the phytochemicals and everything that are hurting the body have been melted down into a black plastic, and it's cheaper than the white plastic. So you're finding a lot of things are black plastic, and a lot of these things you're using because you don't want to scratch the enamel, but they are continuously going into your food because they're melting. Those are microplastics. Guess what, y'all? If you're going to Starbucks or any place else and you're getting a coffee, remember the coffee, when you're putting the hot water in there, this plastic container that goes around it. As soon as you put the hot water in there, it melts the plastic and you're now consuming the plastic from the coffee. So these coffee containers, you're getting these plastic linings, you're getting the plastic. You literally made it easy for them because when it heats up, now the plastic leaches into your food. What about the plastic bottles that you're drinking all the time? When the plastic, every time that you reuse it or every time that there's a crack or you squeeze it or you dropped it or you left it in the car, you're allowing the plastic to go into the water which you're consuming. So by default, you're getting all these plastics inside your body and not realizing what's actually happening. How about the clothes that you're wearing? How about your polyester? That's plastic. How about the every time that you're washing all the clothes. Many of the clothes, if it's not cotton, that's plastic. What about all the lint that comes from your dryer and that floats around inside your house? That's plastic. So plastics is all around us. Here's another thing you can do is to try to clean your produce properly. Wash your fruit and vegetables in running water for at least 30 seconds. Use a brush or a firm produce, to remove pesticides, residues, or anything. I tell people to make it simple for themselves that not only just run it in water, but soak your fruit or vegetables and leave them in the water with baking powder, baking soda, and white vinegar, and just leave it in there for 30 seconds, and you'll be amazed what you see rising to the top. A lot of the waxes and a lot of the things that have been there to make it look shiny in the supermarket starts to come off. Well, guess what, y'all? If you're not cleaning your produce enough, you're getting plastics from the vegetables to prevent them from getting destroyed in transportation. Let's go a little further down. All the self-care products you're using, the labels that have phthalates, parabens, fragrance, all of these have different chemicals in them that are hurting. Your shampoos, your perfumes, all of these have different areas of concern, but they're going right in your shampoos. If they have phthalates or parabens, that means those are microplastics. If anything says fragrance, that means they're endocrine disruptors. If you ever have if you're burning candles in your house and all of a sudden you get a headache, that's a endocrine disruptor. 85% of the candles you're burning right now are plastics that goes into the air and you're getting in the fragrance. So my advice is, if you want to burn candles and you want to make sure the candles are soy wax, not parabens. You're burning parabens and phthalates in your candles and they're going inside your house, and everybody's consuming these endocrine disruptors that are damaging to your cells and your body. The last one is you want to start to detox your home. You want to replace your chemicals, your cleaners, and start changing them out with vinegar, baking soda, plant-based alternatives. Avoid synthetic air fresheners and scented products. All of these are endocrine disruptors. All of these are obesogens. Remember, all these things we're talking about right now, we do on a daily basis. And now you start to say, oh, I see how I could see how plastic could get into my body very easily. Remember, it's small, consistent changes over time that add up to a significant reduction in exposure over time. Here's 5 things I want to give you to start today. 1 is to drink more water. 2 is to add protein with every meal. 3, take a walk. Aim for getting 15 to 30 minutes a day of walk every day, which improves your mood, boosts your circulation, and also strengthens your heart. 4, cut down on processed foods. That's where your inflammation is, the processed foods. And the last one is make a priority for sleep and focus on 7 to 8 hours every single day. Folks, that's all I have. That's a QR code, and if you want to use your phone, if you can, that QR code will bring you to a link where I do a weekly newsletter. There's a health and wellness newsletter that I put out, engaging information, current things that are happening right now in the health and wellness field. So you can definitely use that as a way to keep in contact. And if you'd like, you could also take a picture of this page if you like. And the last thing is my email is also at the bottom. Best thing I would say is just use the QR code, and that would give you access to just drop your name, your email, and you'll be on my newsletter.
Wallace, thank you so much. There are a couple of questions that have come up in the chat.
Yep.
There was one a little while back, I believe it was when you were talking about weight loss and food, or what sorts of foods to eat. The question was to help or hinder if you eat keto foods.
Perfect. That's a good question. This is a touchy subject because we became very accustomed to eating keto. The this is where I get in trouble because people are like, oh no. So if you think about keto, remember we were saying proteins, carbs, and fats? If we eat keto, which one of those three are we eliminating most of? For the person that asked the question, that keto, what would you think is the biggest thing that you're eliminating when you're in keto, when you're having the keto meals? You want to come off mute and just answer that?
Maggie, unmute yourself.
You're still muted, Nady.
Well,
Okay, now I'm not muted anymore.
yes,
Yeah. So what is the problem with the keto foods?
perfect. So if you think about a keto diet, the keto diet essentially says that I want you to eat you're eating mostly fats, in eating mostly proteins, but you're eliminating mostly carbs, right? That's what keto basically is. What it wants you to do is it wants you to put your body into what's called a form of ketosis. The ketosis says that remember what we were saying, that your carbohydrates is your fuel source. And if you get rid of the fuel source, then the body has to go into ketosis. That means that the body now is using protein for fuel. It's not using carbs because you don't have any carbs. So the body says, okay, well, I'm going to use your protein. But remember we said that the protein is also the building block for you to keep muscle. In order for when your body goes into ketosis and doesn't have any carbohydrates, the body says, okay, well, I don't have any carbohydrates for energy. I'm going to use your proteins. I'm going to convert that into ketones. That means it's taking your muscle, cannibalizing it into energy. And over time, that can make you weaker. So you're taking the muscle that we want to hold on to and you're converting it into energy because the body says, I don't have any carbohydrates. Now, here's the problem with being using the keto diet. That we can't do that forever, right? If you try to do the keto diet forever, you can't. Because when life gets stressful, the keto diet goes out the window. Because when we are under stress, the body goes, I need something to make me comfortable. And for our body to get comfortable, it says, give me some sugar. I need some sugar. If you want me to get relaxed, you better give me some sugar. And what happens is, nowhere in the keto diet shows sugar. Now, if you were in the keto diet for a
I
period of time,
avoid sugar. I avoid sugar.
now, but I'll finish and then I'm going to answer that. When you're in the keto diet, the body goes, okay, well, you're not giving me, the body is kind of annoyed because it's like, I have no of the energy that I need. The body goes, I don't have it. So I'm going to use my protein, but you're going to get weaker in the process. There's eventually a point when you're not going to stay in the keto because life never is okay all the time. When you're stressed, you eat carbohydrates. The body says, I'm going to wait for Maddie to just stress out. And as soon as she stresses out, she's going to slip. And as soon as she slips, I'm going to take all these carbohydrates and hold on to it. But I'm also going to hold on to some more because I anticipate that she's going to do this again. So you'll find a lot of people that do the keto diet for a long period of time and then they get off. Not only do they gain weight, but they gain more weight. Because the body's smart. It says, okay, if you want to trick me, I'm going to trick you. I'm scared that you're going to do this to me again. I don't like what you just did to me. So I'm going to hold on to this and some more. So I would rather a person not consider necessarily a keto diet, but have food. Because remember what we were saying, Maddie, before is that carbohydrates, all carbohydrates is a form of sugar, right? So if all carbohydrates are a form of sugar, the only thing you really want to do is focus on foods that are more whole food that came from the ground. It's still sugar, but it has the fiber. So for a person to say that they don't eat any carbohydrates, that's hard. I coach and counsel a lot of people who are vegetarians and vegans. My question to you, have you ever seen a vegetarian or a vegan that's overweight?
I was a
Have
vegan
you
for
ever
about
seen a
5 years and I quit.
has anybody ever seen a vegetarian or a vegan that's overweight? Of course. Of course you have. Because even though they're eating healthy, they're eating too much of the healthy food, right? You can be as healthy as you want to, but it also has to do with carbohydrates in and carbohydrates out. So I'd rather somebody to focus on eating all three so the body is being happy with the way that you're eating, but just focus on not eating so many processed foods and then focus on as foods that are as close as to the way God created them. That's really the best way to operate. Sure, you can have a dessert every once in a while, but if 80% of your food is coming from a good place and 20% is coming from snacks, and listen, I like those averages, y'all. I'll go with the 80%. If I'm slipping up 20% and I'm doing good for 80%, listen, I applaud you. I'm gonna give you some high fives. But if
I
it's the
don't
other,
eat sugary foods.
if it's but the reality is, remember, if okay, here good the best analogy I would give you, one white potato in sugar is equivalent to you having 2 Snicker bars in sugar because of the starch. One bowl of oatmeal is equivalent in sugar as you having 2 donuts. Right? It's healthy, but we have to look at the carbohydrate load that we're getting. So a lot of people eating oatmeal, it's healthy because they said that it's heart healthy. Yes, it's heart
So
healthy.
is sweet potato better?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oatmeal is heart healthy. They have to sell that to you because yes, it's good for the heart because of the fiber, but they're not talking about the amount of carbohydrates you're consuming per bowl.
Thank
Right?
you.
Heart healthy and healthy is different. They can spin it any way they want to because they want you to eat it. Right? Hope that makes sense on that.
There was also somebody who's having trouble with the QR code, and it looks like if they go to your website, u-b-fit.com,
Yep.
and scroll down on the homepage, there's a sign up form.
Yes, you can also use that. Yes, you can.
There was also a question about what are the problems with salt?
Salt. Let me back that out just a little bit. Our body does need salt, right? Because your body turns salts into electrolytes. But let's talk about the salt. Your basic table salt is not good for you. Your best salt that you can consume would be Himalayan salt, pink Himalayan salt. Pink Himalayan salt would be the best salt. Your white table salt, your oxidized table salt. Remember, salt is not white. The origination of salt is not white. So any of the foods that you get are white, that means man messed with it, y'all. I want you to look at the origination of the food and then say, okay, am I getting it at the originator food or am I getting it at a modified level of it? And many times you're getting the modified level. So yes, you can have salt, but what happens is when your body takes on too much sodium, it also holds on to water. So your body retains water when there's so much salt. The second thing is that you don't want to have your sodium levels so high because that causes inflammation because the body can't control the amount of salt that you're getting. The body needs salt, yes, but it would rather have the salt from foods Celery has salt, right? So there's a lot of foods that we consume on a daily basis that gives us the salt. But when we're getting the salt from a byproduct, the body now looks at that as a harmful product. Because you're getting salt in most of the food. If you're eating out at any place outside of your house, I guarantee you that the sodium levels are super high. Without a doubt. Any of the canned foods that you're getting, there's a lot of salt. So
Um,
salt is good for you, but I'd rather you get it from foods as opposed to incorporating inside your food.
Wallace, I want to throw in a commercial for Trader Joe's because they have pink Himalayan salt,
Yep.
even in its own self grinder. So there you go.
Yes. Yep. And remember, if pink Himalayan salt is pink, that's not white, right? So we got to think about where things originate from and where we're getting them from.
there was a question about sea salt. Is it inherently better or worse?
All right. So if we go in order, Himalayan salt, sea salt, then we have the oxidized, ionized salt, or
Ionized?
ionized salt, and then we have the table salt. So the only place where you should really be is pink Himalayan salt, and then below that would be the sea salt. And most of your sea salt, honestly, y'all, is really table salt because no one's watching. Whatever the buzzword is right now, that's what they're putting on the label. The front of your label of anything you purchase is advertising. What you have to do is flip it over and look at the actual ingredients, what the government regulates them to put on there. So don't worry about what the front says. That's advertising for you to buy what they want you to buy. The back is where all of the ingredients are, and that's where you need to keep your eyeballs in focus.
Oh, Wallace, I also want to reinforce the washing the vegetables with baking soda and vinegar because when you drain that out of the sink, it's also really good for cleaning your pipes.
Mhm.
So it'll may bubble up and stuff, so you get a double benefit.
That's
Um,
absolutely. Yep.
Are there any other questions? I'm sorry I'm late, but it was just as good the second time, Wallace, as the first.
Mary Ann, can you repeat what you just said?
What, the baking soda and vinegar?
Yeah.
When you drain, if you wash your vegetables in it, when you drain it down the sink, it just bubbles up a little bit and will help clean your pipes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yep.
skip the Drano and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It actually is a great science experiment for your grandchildren. Just dump a bunch of baking soda in the drain and pour white vinegar in it. It spews up. It's terrific.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a universal item because it also helps with the scale that's in your bathrooms. It does everything. So let me go over a couple of things. You make sure that I covered these. The one was arthritis. And honestly, y'all, the best way to reduce arthritis is movement. The reason why we have arthritis is because there's basically toxins that are in a certain area that's causing inflammation and fatigue. When we move more, you're allowing blood flow to get into that area and it reduces the inflammation. Arthritis is inflammation. So if we can go into areas and move blood flow into that particular area, then you actually the arthritis. Arthritis may not go away. I have arthritis in my knee. But you reduce the arthritis when you eliminate sugars, processed foods, get a sufficient amount of rest, drink your water, exercise, eat the right foods. That sound like the 4 things I mentioned. So the biggest thing that you want to do for arthritis, and this is actually the first thing that as a trainer that we were basically kind of made to understand that we have to get clients to move more to reduce the arthritis. I hope we covered regarding menopause and weight. I want everybody to basically go into their kitchen and do a refresh. How much Tupperware plastic do you have? How many of these plastic containers you got from restaurants that you're using and reusing? How much plastic you put in the microwave? How many black utensils are you consuming that you, instead of, well, it's cheaper for me to just get the black utensils I got from Chipotle, I'm going to use that. That's black plastic that you're putting in your mouth, y'all, and you're heating it up. How about your coffee? If you go into Starbucks, Starbucks lets you bring your own container. Why don't you bring a stainless steel container and put it in there so we can reduce the amount of plastic? Let's flip our things around and look at your makeup, look at your soap, look at your cleansers, look at your detergents, look at your, you have to literally go through your pantry and do a cleanup and see what it is I can do to reduce the amount of plastics I'm getting on a regular basis. That will also affect your menopause. This will also affect your weight and weight loss. This stimulates your body again to start working on its own. So many people that hit plateaus and they're doing everything correct, but they're not looking at what they're consuming. They may be eating the healthy food, but we got to look and say, but where is it coming from? And how can I eliminate plastics and obesogens that are inside my body? Prediabetes. You have diabetes and prediabetes. Diabetes, okay, let me do it again. I'll go back to the analogy that we're talking about the nutrition. And remember when I said that you're eating the food, it goes into your stomach, and now you have the glycogen. Glycogen is basically sugar that's leaving your stomach. It goes into your small intestines. When glycogen goes in your small intestine, the body goes, there's sugar here. I don't like my blood being so thick. What it does, it's going to call out for your pancreas, say, hey, insulin, I need the help. Remember I said you unlock the key. The master key takes the glycogen and the water and puts them inside your cells. When the cells get full, now it's searching around. Where am I going to go? I got nowhere to go. All my cells are full. It goes into, for women, it goes into your stomach. It goes around your waist and your hips. For men, it goes right to your abdomen, and you see this big pot belly. When you're eating processed foods all the time, the sugar keeps getting kicked in, and the body goes, sugar, but the cells are full. Sugar, cells are full. Your body's shooting for insulin. The food is looking for a place to go, but the cells continue to be full. After a while, your doctor goes to you, you're pre-diabetic. And that's because you keep triggering the insulin response, but the sugar has nowhere to go because you've been eating foods that has caused your body to already have enough sugar. After a while, the body goes, okay, if you want to keep calling for sugar and I don't need it, the body says, well, I'm going to shut it off. So the first thing is your warning sign. Your doctor told you got prediabetes, but we never change. We don't want to change. We keep doing the same thing. Then the body goes, okay, if you don't want to change, I'll do it for you. I'll turn it off. And that's diabetes. Your prediabetes is your warning. Your diabetes is now that the body turned the insulin off. And now you have to put insulin or trigger the insulin itself in order to make that happen. Can you reverse the process? Absolutely. But that requires you to start eating better. Start focusing on the 4 things that I had mentioned. Sciatica. I don't really get into sciatica as much for the simple reason is that I would ask you to ask your doctor because your doctor would probably have a different scenario. Everybody's sciatica is different. But I can guarantee you that if there is sciatica, I want you to go back to the 4 things I just said. Let's check off. How's your nutrition? Let's check off your movement. Let's check off. Are you drinking enough water? Let's check off. How's your nutrients? Let's check off. Are you getting a sufficient amount of sleep? Let's check off. How's your stress levels? The sciatica is another form of your body being irritated. Once your body's irritated, it sends signals to the body that certain things are going to happen. Sciatica happens to be one. It's just basically a form of inflammation to the body. Many times the doctor may give you a prescription, but there's certain times there's movements. So I want to revert that back to asking a doctor or a chiropractor, how can they help you with the sciatica? But I will say it originates from how healthy your body is.
Well, this has just been terrific. I'm sure we could go all afternoon. Thank you so much. And Carter has put in the chat how to get to Wallace's website. And I can highly recommend his newsletter because every day you're reminded of something that you need to be doing. So it's just terrific. And he does conduct a boot camp for those of you that are feeling needing to be fit every Saturday, right, in Bowie?
It's correct, in Bowie, right.
So all of that's on his website, and we are so grateful for this. The next time you see us, we're all going to be 10 pounds lighter, much stronger, and we'll have spinach in our teeth because we will have eaten the vegetables that you recommend. We really appreciate this, Wallace. And for everybody, before you go, I just wanted to remind you of two things, or not remind you, tell you. For those of you that were with us in May, we had Stacy Price from Made in Maryland. You don't have to have watched that show, but she has offered to do a free craft class at the shop, which is Made in Maryland, which is in College Park in the City Hall. And that will be on August 12th, which is a Tuesday, from 11 to 1. So I'll send you an email about that. And then next month, August, which is almost upon us, August 23rd, we are having a gentleman from the Prince George's County Homeland Security Department who's going to talk about emergency preparedness, which is certainly timely in light of the Texas floods, our own trouble last weekend, things like that. What you need to be prepared for any kind of an emergency, and especially if you need to evacuate. So I encourage you to join that. We'll be sending the promotion out on that in a week or two. And Carter will send the recording of today's session to you probably next week, Carter, middle of the week or something.
Yep. Next week, hopefully early in the week.
So you can send it to your children, your grandchildren, review it yourself as often as you wish. Carter, did I cover everything? Okay. We thank you all for joining us. Stay in, try and stay cool, drink water, and we look forward to seeing you next month. And Wallace, I hope we see you before then. I'm going to come to boot camp one of these days.
Sounds good.
You'll be gentle with me, right?
I will.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for your time, everyone. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Take care.